All right, we are back once again with another election update video. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Peace and Chaos program. We're going to give you some information that at the time of recording this is a week out from the November 8th election deadline. So, we don't know what can happen there. Things are starting to ramp up here, but I think we're getting a lot more of a clear idea of how this election is going to be playing out.
Yeah, yeah, and since our last recording back on October 6th, there's been a big change in some of the races, also a shift in some of the issues at hand, and just overall a focus on the states that each party are trying to win. So let's take a look at some of the issues that are most notable here in the US. So these are America's issue priorities outlined by Monmouth University in New Jersey. And this has been a shift in some of the issues that have been at hand. So in September, um, the poll of adults that they took back in September 2022, there was a tie for the most important with elections and voting and inflation both getting 37% of the vote. While now that has changed, inflation has increased to 46%, while elections and voting has gone up by a percentage point with 38%. Crime is the third issue right now that is most important. Immigration is four. And then, as you can see, jobs, employment, abortion, racial inequality, gun control, and climate change have all been priorities as well, and they have seen minimal shift. But let's now take a look at some of the issues. We'll go to the
We'll go by party right
inflation.
here.
Yeah, we'll by party first before we look more into inflation. But as you can see, inflation is the big issue for the Republicans, with 79% of Republican likely voters identify inflation as the big issue to focus on, while 47% of Democrats look at inflation. The Democrats' biggest concern right now for Democratic voters is political extremism or polarization, and this could be equated to January 6th and election denying. And besides political extremism and inflation, 39% of Democrats identify climate change as a issue at hand, while the rest of the issues for the Republicans are immigration at 34% and government budget and debt at 26%. So, with these issues at hand, it shows you that inflation is the biggest issue that Republicans are going to focus on. And it kind of reflects, go back here to Monmouth's University's poll. It shows you that inflation is the biggest issue that they polled of the adults. So could this
Yep,
mean that
and
the
as you can see, it
Republicans?
had the largest percent increase from September to October in terms of what issues matter most to voters right here, with a 9% increase right here. Pull up the consumer price index. That this is a pretty big issue right here for Americans in terms
Yep.
of economic issues. Always seem to be that priority in terms of elections right now, as voters are trying to get food under the table. But as you can see right here, things have not been looking pretty for the past couple of years in
Mhm.
terms of what's going on with prices for food, gas prices, energy prices. They've all been going up.
Yep. Yep. As you can see, I mean, look at food in general has gone up 11.2% between September 2021 and September of 2022. And you look at even more of the aggregates within food. I mean, you see dairy and related products, 15.9% increase in the past year. Non alcoholic beverages, 12.9%. You see cereals, 13%. And also meat, poultry, that's at around 9%. And I mean, energy too. We're at an energy crisis as well. I mean, if you're at the gas pump, you're looking at right now for gasoline at all types, 18.2% compared to September of last year. And fuel oil for your home, 58.1%. That's the biggest one on this list. So it just shows you how much inflation has impacted an Americans' spending.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though some of these indicators have gone down, like for example, some of the fuel indicators have gone down from August to September. I did see fuel prices rise a little bit with in the month of October, so maybe
Mhm.
that's getting more people out to the polls saying, this is more of an issue now. What's Biden doing on this? And
Yep.
also, if you look at I think the big takeaway here is what exactly are both parties running on right here? When you look at sort of the political ads that are being brought about, I think with with Republicans right now, they're trying to hit more on that sort of key issue of economics, of
Yep.
inflation, of sort of saying, okay, look what Biden's administration's doing in terms of dealing with this problem. Are
Mhm.
they spending too much? Are they not getting money back to the people? Look at this huge fear of the recession. And right now, I think with even amongst even Democrats right now, they say inflation's the highest thing, but are Democrats really campaigning on this platform of inflation is something that I have not seen very much. So
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, we see it here. Republicans focusing on inflation, Democrats not so much. And is that because they're the party in control right now? That could be an issue for them. And they might see that, well, this is actually impacting our incumbents and our elected officials who are looking to run again. So Republicans are able to, push on that with the inflation front and how it has been impacting Americans with food purchases, energy, and even other goods as well. So that is one key issue that Republicans have been really focusing on when they are on the campaign trail.
yes, and we can obviously see that when we look at the some of our key Senate races coming up right here in terms of how that's shifting in terms of you know who's going to be likely to take which Senate seats. That's up for grabs right now, and a couple of key areas right now. If we
Yep.
look at the general populate sort of split right now, about a month ago we were saying, okay, it's most likely going to be a Democratic lean, and it seems some people say it's going to be a narrow lean, but it's a deadlock right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's several states that are going to be on the playing field as for how they're going to turn out and how they're going to impact the trajectory of the Senate. One of them is Pennsylvania, where we see Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman going up against Dr. Oz. In the state of Georgia, it's between Herschel Walker, the Republican and former football star, and the incumbent Raphael Warnock, as well as the independent libertarian Chase Oliver, who is polling at just below 1%, and in Nevada too, with former Republican Adam Paul Laxalt, who was actually the, I believe, lieutenant governor at one point. He's going up against Catherine Cortez Masto, who is currently the incumbent in Nevada. So these are some of the Senate races that are of major focus um, during the midterms.
Yeah, things have shifted in terms of what's going on in terms of those individual races as well. If we go to Pennsylvania right here. What's changed in that election is we I believe we alluded to this once we brought this up during our last talk, but which you can check out if you go to our channel right here. But obviously, economic conditions have slightly changed, and if you look at the recent debate performance with Fetterman, it wasn't really a good turnout for him. As
Mm-mm.
there's concerns about his medical health as well. I mean, that's being brought up heavily in terms of the rhetoric against him, whether or not he's actually fit to serve as a senator after he suffered a stroke. And and with Oz, I mean, he's riding the platform of saying, okay, we need to focus on crime, we need to focus on inflation. That's another thing that people are running, the Republicans are running on right now, is sort of this attitude towards crime.
Yep.
If you look at sort of how Democrats have been phrasing things, I know it doesn't really go to all Democrats. Like for example, I'm pretty sure people like Biden and Harris are not really saying, okay, defund the police. They're still using that rhetoric to sort of, or ideas like cashless bail. That's another big issue right now that we're seeing the Republicans are using. And obviously, this is resonating with voters right now. As while Fetterman still has a pretty slightly lead over Oz, things are tightening.
Yep. Yeah, that is true. And I mean, we saw the chances of winning the seat for Fetterman as high as 83 and 100 in September. And since then, it has gone down. And there's been a lot of talk about is he fit to serve? I mean, in May of this year, he suffered a stroke, which changed the whole outcome of this race. And we saw just 1 week ago during his debate with Dr. Oz, he was mumbling on words, stuttering. He was not able to coherently speak. And this showing right here was a lot on the minds of Pennsylvania voters and also with political pundits. Republicans were saying that this proves that he is not fit to serve. He cannot think straight, and that he's going to embarrass Pennsylvania and he's not going to be an effective senator, while Democrats have said he's transparent on this issue of even coming to do a debate after suffering a stroke. So this has been a big issue, and also on the polling front and on the campaign trail, Republicans have been focusing, especially with Dr. Oz, on crime, on inflation, like you mentioned, and that has also ramped up their base for this race.
Yeah, as you can see right here, most polls favor Fetterman right now, but there still is it's now becoming more even, and even some polls are now favoring Oz right now. And even with like personal character side, if we go to the Georgia race, for example, not long ago, we were talking about how with the recent allegations of Herschel Walker's past life have come up with in relation to abortion, the tides are still rising with Walker right here, as he has now gained a favorable advantage over Raphael Warnock in this race. Now, Georgia is going to be a unique example because there could be a runoff in this election right here with how narrow things are, and that could extend, past election deadline as we saw in 2020. And I think if that happens and if it's a toss up, there's going to be a significant amount of investment in terms of where Democrats and Republicans are going to use as strategy for the runoff election.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely true, especially with a libertarian candidate who's only polling at about just less than 1%. How that could shift how the race is going to play out. I mean, right now they have a 53 and 100% chance. So it has favored Walker in a little bit of this way. I mean, some polls have saying that Warnock is still going to win this, but with the way that this has gone on, and especially with Republicans across the U.S., this could turn into a runoff. And I mean, yeah, with Walker and his personal life, I mean, Walker is still focusing on the Republican issues at hand. We mentioned inflation, crime, and this has still been able to help him, even though all this press has been on his personal life and with abortions in the past.
Yep, and we'll touch on a few more Senate races right here that we talked about for a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you a question right here. But we're going to see how things are narrowing up, and let's go to Nevada right here. And now things have been pretty split in terms of we talked about this a little bit with the Senate race over there.
One thing though with Nevada was that I'm going to correct myself in the beginning. I called Adam Paul Laxalt the lieutenant governor. He was not the former lieutenant governor. He was actually the former Nevada attorney general. He's a big time Republican, a big name Republican in the state, and he has been well known to Nevada voters in the past. And right now, that has shown in the polls. I mean, at one point, I believe in our last polls, about 50-50. In our last video back in early October, they had it at 50-50. Since then, it has shifted in favor of Laxalt, the challenger to incumbent Cortez Masto. And I mean, you can see it here. They had her at 63-37 on the 11th of September. And things have slightly narrowed, and the Republicans have been able to become the favor here in October, late October, just a week before Election Day. And I mean, some of these polls also show it. But it shows you, though, that Republicans are making up grounds, and Nevada being a state that has become very important, just not in terms of the Senate, but just in terms of the presidency, how close it's going to be. Can Cortez Masto, being a Latina, can she get on more? Can she gain more Latino support, or will Adam Paul Laxalt get some of the Latino support that has come in recent years?
Right,
And that is
exactly.
going to be the biggest focus in Nevada.
Yeah, absolutely, right there. One race we'll highlight for I think for the sake of teaching a lesson right here, because I think this is a pretty unique race, is Arizona.
Yeah, let's go
Now,
check out Arizona.
during the Republican primaries, it was a pretty dead split in terms of who was going to get the nominations, and Blake Masters barely made it out. I think he has a background in sort of investments. He worked with Peter Thiel, so he's a very much an outside candidate. I think this goes to show the need for sort of to be a big name in the Republican Party right now. If you can garner attention for yourself in terms as a brand for yourself, you're going to draw a lot of voters out.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, Mark Kelly was also an astronaut, and he was also in the Navy, so he has been well known even before, he became a senator, back in 2020. So, for Masters, he's gonna have to really gain support in a state that went for Trump in 2016, went for Biden in 2020. Can he get those Republican votes that voted for Trump in 2016 and also who voted for Trump in 2020 and move up on that? And if he can do that, this race can maybe flip. But again, they're saying it's a 3-point favorite right now in favor of Kelly, the incumbent, 68 and 100% chance. But again, a lot can change still. And with Arizona being one of the most important states in the past two election cycles, things have to go the way of the Democrats in order to take control of the Senate. If they lose Arizona, it might be over for them in the Senate because of how important that's become to Democrats.
And it's not just the Senate as well. We're going to be talking about the governor's races right here. As I think other than inflation, the big issue for Democrats, and if we go back to the Monmouth poll right here, let's pull it up. As you can see right here, elections and voting is still a pretty popular issue, having gone up 1% since September, and about 38%, which makes it the second highest in terms of extreme importance right here for voters. And Arizona's key right here because if you look at who's running now, that there's a big government fight between Carrie Lake and Katie Hobbs of Arizona. Carrie Lake she's been garnering a lot of media attention lately for her comments about the 2020 election.
Mhm.
Big time Trump supporter right there.
Yep.
Big inside Trump's inner circle. And of course, I think if she gets any sort of state power, this could be a huge blow to Democrats. As you can see, there's a lot of governor races up there, and a lot of people that are they're pretty much going to get state power. They're going to have a lot of say in terms of what goes on in 2024, in terms of how those states certify their election results.
Yep. Yep. That is very important to note, especially with Lake being someone who has become a Trump loyalist, who's actually kind of gotten national attention too. I mean, it's not just in Arizona, but I mean, when we saw the first, I don't know if you remember the first Arizona Republican um, debate between all the Republican candidates, but they were discussing a lot on the election, and a lot of them did not understand how the election even worked, how results are certified, that there are Republicans, Democrats, and independents that work inside these voting headquarters where they count all the votes. A lot of people did not understand that we're running in the Republican. So this is going to be very interesting, and it's good that you pointed that out from the Monmouth poll because a lot of Americans are still focused on election integrity, and this has been a clear focus on this since we saw in 2020 when it was contested, and there were a lot of claims saying that it was not verified and it was not certified. So with this race right here with Carrie Lake, right now holding a significant edge over Katie Hobbs, this is going to be a big um, thing to look at in other governorship races across the country.
Yeah, exactly. And this could have huge implications on what's to come in 2024 in terms of those election results. One more race I want to focus on here for the governor side of things. We're going to be going to the great state of Oregon as a conventional Democratic stronghold, as it's on the west coast of the United States. This is now looking pretty split.
Yep.
It's not just the fact that this is a 50-50 draw right now, but if you look down in terms of the people that are running, we have a third party candidate that's now garnering 14% of the popular vote.
Wow.
Republican that's running it for this is Christine
Draws in.
Drazen, who's a pretty moderate Republican, but the person Betsy Johnson, who's running as the third party candidate
Yep.
in Oregon, is now garnering a 14% of the vote, which is, I mean, that's not much in the grand scheme of things, but that could sway things.
That could. Yes, that could clearly take out votes that could have either went to the Republican or Democrat. And since she is more of a I guess, conservative, this could hurt the Republican, even though right now in this poll right here, it has 0.1% um, edge over the Democrats. So, with that being said, this is going to be a very tight election in a state that has traditionally been a blue stronghold. And it's interesting to see that. But I mean, Oregon is so it's one of those states though where you have big Democratic hubs in Portland and Salem and Eugene, but you also have big Republican counties where it's more rural, it's more like Idaho, Wyoming. So that's kind of where we're seeing why this is such a big divide in this race. But it's interesting to see that across the country, you say Oregon, you just think it's a Democratic stronghold. But again, with this race, it's going to come down to three candidates.
Yeah, and there's a pretty narrow margin.
Yeah.
I think you see right here. This is a dead heat of a race, and I think once election time comes around, you could we could see Oregon become a swing state in the 2024 election, which is going to be shocking to see.
And oh yeah, Johnson actually, she leans more democratically. Um, so that's the reason why this could also be the reason the popular vote is shifted in a way, because she actually has more democratic leanings. Um, and since she is running third party, this could hinder the Democrats in a big way.
It's like a Ralph Nader right there.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're gonna let's touch upon the House real quick, and I want to pose a question to you in terms of general strategy. Now,
Yep.
we didn't really talk much about the House, but at the time we recorded our October updates or early October updates, it was pretty likely that Republicans were going to be getting more seats in the House
Mhm.
or even retaking the House. But now it just looks like it's gonna be a pretty clear win right here for Republicans, unless a miracle happens with the Democrats. Which, I mean, a week you never know what could happen. But right now, even in counties that or districts that have voted Biden pretty
Mhm.
narrowly, if you look at sort of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, there's definitely a narrow margin there
Yep.
that are now starting to shift more towards nominating Republican candidates for Congress.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
overall, I want to pose this question to you: with the red sort of shift right now, how do you think Democrats should pivot in terms of their messaging to candidates now that Republicans are sort of taking their planks? Do you think they should focus more on economics? Do you think they should focus more on election integrity? What do you think they should focus on right here?
I mean, with already that being said, and with us showing that Democrats are already struggling, it seems like a lot of them are just focusing on abortion and election integrity. And also, I've seen a couple ads on Medicare and just a couple of things on healthcare. So I think what they need to focus on is looking at what moderates see and even independents and looking back at the 2020 playbook in a way, not specifying on all the key issues of 2020, but looking at the economy, looking at inflation, but trying to make it so that you can reach those moderate voters that voted your way in 2020. If you can do that with inflation, if you can do that with the economy in general, and if you can even do it on crime in a way, present your policies in a way that is moderate, you can gain some of these votes back. And this could make these races a lot more closer and could swing the pendulum back in the Democrats' favor if they do it properly. So that's where I think they should focus on.
I do agree with you there. And Democrats right now are rolling out the big guns right now. They're getting Bernie Sanders on tour. Obama's coming out on campaign trails. President Biden, of course, made his endorsements to vote blue right there.
Mhm.
And you could obviously say for the other side right now, right there, as even Trump is making his endorsements for Senate races, even in places that have pretty strong Democratic strongholds now, that are starting to lean more Republican. So
Mhm.
I think a lot's going to happen with the past week, but we will be covering it right on the Piece of Chaos program. We will be doing a live stream on November 8th as the election results are certified, and then we're going to get a live reaction in terms of what the results are and what this means for the country right here. Hopefully a special guest or two.
Yep, definitely, definitely.
But till then, this is how things are looking right now we could be seeing a pretty big red wave coming, but you never know. There's a week left, so anything could possibly happen right here. And
Yeah,
this
that
is
is
the time to
definitely
say
true.
people are stressing this. We're gonna stress this. This is a pretty big midterm right here.
Yes, this is a monumentous midterm. I mean, every midterm election is important, but I think right now with all the issues at stake, this is going to be a big one for years to come.
Hold on, I'm gonna do my. I'm gonna change my avatar real quick, and I'm gonna do this. This is the mother of all midterms, Jack. You can't fret over every vote.
I like
Anyway, so we'll be giving you that coverage, but until then, I'm Big Don. I'm doing this in reverse. That's DJ Ace Man. We are signing off right here for the Piece of Chaos program. This is your 2022 midterm update. See ya.
that.